In the studio with me today, I have Mike Reynolds, who's what is known as a caver. In other words, he spends long periods of time exploring underground caves for pleasure. And Mike's here to tell us all about this fascinating hobby and how to get started on it. So, Mike, why caves?
Well, cavers actually explore any space that's underground, whether it's caves, old mines or tunnels.
Oh, right. So, how big are these underground spaces?
Oh, anything up to 80 kilometres long, which means that in some cases, in order to reach the end, you've got to sleep, to set up camp inside the cave at some point, usually where both space and fresh air are available.
No good if you're afraid of the dark.
No.
So, where do you find the best caves?
In terms of countries, the best places are, for example, Ireland, Australia and the Philippines. Here in the UK, various areas have the right sort of geology. My favourite is Wales, but you can find plenty of caves in northern England and in Scotland too.
Caving involves a lot of physical exercise, doesn't it?
That's right. In terms of physical activity, it's very similar to climbing, except they go up and we go down. The conditions can be very different though. We often find ourselves facing very small gaps in the rock, which we have to crawl through on our hands and knees.
So the right equipment is obviously very important. If I wanted to start out on a hobby like this, what would I need?
Well, you need a hard hat, and it's important to get one that fits properly, so that it doesn't keep falling over your eyes or feel too tight. And these can cost anything from £5 to £20.
That doesn't sound too much for starters.
Oh, but then there's the lamp. You wear that on your head because it's very important to keep your hands free at all times. But it doesn't come with the hat, and it can cost anything up to £50 to get a suitable one.
I guess warm clothes are a must too.
You'll need to spend £30 to £40 on a waterproof suit, because the caves can be pretty wet and cold inside, and you can get ill if you're not protected. Then, of course, the thing that you really need to spend money on is something for your feet that keeps the water out. Strong boots are essential for this. Also, because without them, you could be slipping on wet surfaces and doing yourself an injury. Cheap ones are just not as safe, I'm afraid.
Well, it sounds pretty tough. I mean, is it really only a sport for the young and fit?
That's quite interesting because people tend to think that. But in fact, cavers come from all ages and backgrounds, students and professionals alike. You even find 80-year-olds who've been doing it for years.
What exactly is it that people find so attractive?
It's excitement. The pleasure you get in finding something new. A passage that nobody knew about before, or a piece of rock that's just lovely to look at.
And I understand that conservation has become a key issue as well.
Yes, 48 caves in Britain are now known as places of special interest because of what they contain. And this is the same in other countries too.
So do cavers enjoy competing like in other sports?
No. We want to enjoy a safe sport, and in order to ensure that, there are no competitions in caving. We try to organise a range of events, but the emphasis is on cooperation and the enjoyment of the sport for what it can offer the individual.
Well, it sounds like something I'll have to try one day. Mike, thank you very much for coming in and sharing.